Before start of this tutorial, I'm also going to give a brief introduction about myself, about my background as well. And if you're not interested, please feel free to skip that. And later, I'm also going to explain why I have created this tutorial and what is a user-driven approach is all about. So those are all the things that I'm going to explain in this tutorial. So let me give a brief introduction about myself. And my name is Satish. And as of now, I'm having a 12 years of experience in software development, and still it's going on. And over here, I have mentioned some few technologies. Like these were some of the few things that I have worked on. And there are a lot of other things I also worked on. I didn't want to put it over here so the slide doesn't become so messy of all about. And my aim is like whatever the knowledge that I have gained, I'm a person like where I want to distribute to someone else. But there is no kind of any medium like where I can just sit and help them in learning. And yes, I just started a YouTube channel, and over here I'm going to put each and every series, whatever I have learned and whatever that is keen interested is all about. And I'm also going to explain you guys only 10 minutes per day. That is what my aim, because I don't want to consume more than 10 minutes of your time. And each and everyone have a should have a practical exposure as well. So that is what the main advantage of this particular tutorial as well. And the reason why I have created this tutorial is like if you take a look at some of the tutorials which is outside, each and every tutorial is cost much, and they won't give enough details if it is free, and they would ask you to go and refer in this and this site and gain the knowledge like that, and otherwise it won't be from the scratch itself. When I say scratch, what I am planning is if someone, a layman who doesn't know what is ReactJS itself, and he knows something like what is computer, what is HTML, JavaScript, if he refers my website, he should be a React advanced developer. Like at the end of viewing all the videos that I have created, at the end you should be an advanced React.js developer. That's what my aim is all about, and that is what I am just planning to do it, and that's why I created this tutorial as well. And for a reference, I would suggest you don't have to take a look at any tutorial itself, or you don't have to take a look at any source. If you just refer my tutorial alone is enough, more than enough, that I'll be telling you all the concepts, what are all the things that is present in the React.js from the scratch till the end. Either it goes to 500 videos or 400 videos, whatever it is. I'm going to explain it from the scratch, and it is totally free of cost. You don't have to pay anything, and I'm not going to tell you that for the advanced topic like this and this, go and refer like this and all. I won't be doing it, because most of the YouTubers right now, those who create any content in the YouTube, they are doing it. I don't want to mention the name, but I don't also want to put down their efforts as well. And hence, I have created this tutorials, and there is a typo over there in the slide. What I mean to mention is just spend 10 minutes a day. That's it, more than enough. And each and every day you have to learn one concept with practical knowledge. That's what my planning is all about. So enough of giving the brief introduction about myself and my career and what are all about. It is a bit boring. I know that. Even I got bored. And right now we'll get into the topic. What is React.js? React.js is a JavaScript library which is used for UI design. So whenever someone is asking in an interview, just give this alone. And by giving this statement is alone is not enough. You have to explain what it is. So what is JavaScript library? So we know JavaScript, but what is JavaScript library? Say for example, if you want to bring an image in front of your web page, at that time you will be writing some few lines of code in JavaScript, and this would be around 10 lines or 20 lines, or sometimes it may be 100 lines, the way the effect should look like. And this is quite complex, and each and every time you have to write this 100 lines of code. Say for example, this 100 lines of code would be common and you have written some code or library. That is what library is all about. If you written some common code somewhere else and it is stored in a folder, and this folder would be referred from the active programming wherever I am doing, and just within two to three lines of code I can able to achieve rendering the image with effects. So this particular folder or the contents whichever I am using, right, that is called as a library. So ReactJS is one such JavaScript library which is used for UI design alone. So this is not used for any backend language, something like that. This is only as a UI design. We are using this ReactJS library, and it is a user-driven approach. What you mean by user-driven approach? User-driven approach is that, like, where you are writing a programming language, right? At that time, when you are coding, you have to keep user in your mind. So that is called as a user-driven approach. And the ReactJS is a component-based architecture. So for example, take a Java programming. So if you are coding anything in the Java programming, each and every class that you are going to write, right, is going to be a Java class. Like that, over here, each and everything that we are going to code would be a components, and that is called component-based architecture. And ReactJS was developed by Facebook, and it is still maintained by them, and it is open source. So it is said that even a Facebook was developed by using the components, that is nothing but the ReactJS. And if you just look into your home page of the Facebook, even that particular web page itself is developed by 10,000 components. So imagine like how many number of components would be there in the picture. And there are also other JavaScript libraries available in open source. They are nothing but the EXTJS, Angular, or one such of the JavaScript library. ReactJS is the most used one, and if you just get into any job website, you can see that ReactJS is the one like which is mostly asked by many companies. That is because of its user-driven approach. And one more thing I just want to keep you posted before winding up this is I want to explain you by showing some website, and I also want to tell you how the web page of the ReactJS is been looking like that. You can also open a Facebook, and for here what I'll do is I'll open one of the sample ReactJS website, and I'm just going to show you how it looks like. So I am opening this website react.rocks, which is being developed by the ReactJS. This is one such example. So over here you see the website, right? So in this website, each and every component, this one is a component actually. This one is a component, this one is a component, like that. So when you are getting into this website, it is bringing all this component that is shown over here. And inside this also somewhere else, this particular components can also be used. The reusability is there. So once you click on the component, this would be open, and which is another component. So ReactJS is something like user-driven architecture, which is built on components like this. So this is one thing I just want to keep you posted. And thanks for watching. Please feel free to subscribe. In the upcoming tutorials, we will get into practical knowledge and gain some practical knowledge on it. Over here, I just want to keep you posted with some introductions about this series and introduction about ReactJS and about myself. That is what I want to achieve over here. And I'll make sure each and every day you just spend only 10 minutes. Maybe at the time of installing and other things and all, it would consume more time. But apart from that, you just have to spend only 10 minutes a day. You will learn each concepts, even including practical knowledge about it. That's it. Thanks, and have a nice day.
Hello everyone, welcome to the second tutorial in this series of a complete guide to ReactJS. In this tutorial, we are going to see how to make your React app up and running in your local. When I say local, it means in your system or laptop or desktop, whatever it is. So in order to make your application up and running in your local, the React application up and running in local, there are two things that we need to do as a prerequisite. They are, you have to download Nodejs. So you can download Nodejs at this path, and based on which system it belongs to, either Mac, Windows, you have to download this, whether it is 32-bit or 64-bit. You have to download it accordingly, install it just like a normal software, and then you have to download Visio Code. That is nothing but Visual Studio Code, and this is the URL, and make sure that the name is Visual Studio Code and it is not Microsoft Visual Studio, and download this file as well based on it is 32-bit or 64-bit. And once you download this, install this as well. Once you install this, your application will be up and running like this. And in this, you have to click on open folder, and you have to choose which folder you want. I'm just choosing React app, and select folder. And in this folder, once you select this folder, your React app will be running. Sorry, your local would be pointed to the React app, and that's all. The prerequisite is done, and we are going to make our application up and running. And how we are going to make it? So we are going to make our application up and running just by a single command. Yes, you heard it right. It is single command. If you execute this command, npx create react app space my app. My app is the name of the React application that we are going to create. So make sure that this my app is all or in small case. If it is in uppercase, it would give you an exception. So once you click on this, once you enter this command, click on enter. So once you enter, what happens is it will install series of files. You can see there are numerous number of files has been loaded, and make sure you have a good internet connections, because this would take some time. If you have a good internet connections, it would install it very soon, and you will get a message that found zero vulnerability. That means your React app has been installed perfectly, and your npm will also install the dependencies. Yes, the React app has been installed, and right now you have to execute a command npm start. So make sure that you go to the app that you have created. It is already been there in my app, so I'm not going to do that once again, or else cd and go to the app name. I've created already. I'm not going to enter this. And once you go over there, npm start. That's it. Your application would be up and running right now. The React application would be up and running in your local, and you can also see that in the browser. Very simple, isn't it? Yeah. So your base is ready right now, and your application is up and running. And from next future tutorial, what we are going to see is we are going to see some certain concepts, and we are going to write our own code, design our applications, and learn each and every concepts inside React app. So once I click on npm start, right now your npm would act as a development server, and yeah, it automatically goes. Once you click the npm start, it will automatically go and install It will go to your browser and you'll go to the port number wherever your React app is being deployed. So all this information is present inside that a single command npx create React app. So wait for it. It is just loading the pages, what are all the things, and if it is taking more time, you have to go here and see the console if there is any error is thrown. As of now, I don't see any error. That means, yeah, your React application is compiled successfully over here. Your React application is there, and see that this is dynamically loaded in your machine, and React app is doing that. So that's all in this tutorial, and thanks for watching. In the next tutorial, we will learn the concept inside the React app, and we'll do some tweaks and learn the concepts over there. That's all from my end. Have a nice day ahead. Hello everyone. Welcome to the third tutorial in this complete series to ReactJS video playlist. In this tutorial, we are going to see what are the other ways to create the React app which we have created using npx create React app command in the last tutorial. So you have seen in the last tutorial, like we have just used the command npx create React app and we hit the browser localhost 3000 and you found the application up and running. What happens at the back end? What is there in that particular command that you executed in your terminal that I've created a React app and your browser was up and running? So all these informations are available in Webpack and Babel way of creations. So I have classified the React app creation into two. One is through npx create React app command, another way is through Webpack and Babel. The reason is each and every way of creating a React app has its own importance, which we are going to see in our next slide. Using npx command, we have created a React app, but say for example, it is a case where you want some var to be present at some place and it should be written in React code, and say for example, you need to write your business logic separate in such a way like manipulation with respect to calculations, operations, or certain round of web services that needs to be called. What happens is that npx command, whichever executed, would provide you all the UI components? No. The reason is while using the npx command, you have not generated any file which tells that my application is going to be a var and it is going to be at one place where it would be called by my servers. So over there, when we use the npx command, you remember we have entered another command npm start where your node engine is acts as a server. You would have also seen the command it's going to act as a dev server, right? So all this, what happened is your node acts as a middle layer, acts as a server in which your React app is running and it is seen in the UI. So on a non-enterprise application, you can use this particular command and you can go ahead and take a look at my other series of upcoming tutorials and work on the same. Whereas when you're going for the different way, that is through Webpack way, for creating a var and then you want to reuse it by the business logic or by the enterprise application or by the services, you have to go through the Webpack way of creation. So these are the differences. So using Webpack, these are all the advantages. You can create your own bundle and keep your var separate, and your business logic can be in some Jazz, or if you are writing a Java code, or if you Python or whatever it is, then you can call this var and it would give you a proper UI like in your front end. So these are all the advantages of the Webpack. So when you are creating a Webpack application, React applications, so what are all the main things that should be present is webpack config.js. It's like a main class in Java. This tells what are all the JavaScripts that it should enter as the first point of contact, and then what are all the HTML files it needs to be loaded and what to be loaded. And this what to be loaded would be a JSX file. JSX is the format in which React files would be mentioned, and this would how JSX loads is like an index, like an HTML in which it embeds. It would be embedded as a JSX and it would get displayed. So these are all the contents and these are all the things that would be covered in the upcoming tutorial. I'm explaining you this since I want you guys, whoever referring this tutorial, wants to know when to use npx command to create the React app applications and when to use Webpack version of creating a React app applications. And hence the reason I have started this tutorial before getting into my next topic. So in this slide you can take a look. So when you click on the browser, you have seen the beautiful React that is surrounded in the last tutorial, right? It was just buffering. So how it buffered is, it was just a static HTML page. In the static HTML page, the React DOM, which was present in our main.js, like it's a JSX, like which was rendering that dynamic manipulation of some circle over there. So in our next tutorial, I'll explain you more in detail like how this comes in front end with the Hello World program. And as of now, just make sure that React DOM is the main component that is present inside the HTML, which brings you some contents in front end, and it would give you a beautiful look of a React applications. That's all from my end in this tutorial. If you have any questions or comments, you can just put it over here in this video and I'll take a look, and if there is any questions, I'll answer the same as much as I can. Thanks and have a nice day. We'll see you in next tutorial. Hello everyone. Welcome to the fourth tutorial in this series of Complete Guide to ReactJS. In this tutorial, I'm going to explain how to install a React app using Webpack. In the second tutorial, I have explained how to create a React app using npx command, and in the third tutorial, I have explained you like what are all the classifications that can be done or to create a React applications. And in this tutorial I'm going to explain that like the second classification, which is nothing but creating a React using Webpack. So at first what I have done is I have created a new folder called React using a Webpack, and then I opened it through open folder over here, and it had opened it for me. And second thing what I have to do is I have to go to the terminal window, and in the terminal window I have to click on new terminal so that it loads it to me. So these are the first step. The second step what we are going to do is we are going to create a new folder in which all the Webpack components will be bundled. So let me create a new folder by using this particular command in the command prompt, like which is nothing but mkdir app, and then I have to go to that particular app. So once you got into this app, so the very first point for each and every JavaScript application is your package.json file. So how to run this package.json file, where I'll get it, how to create it. It is not we going to create the package.json. We have a simple command that is nothing but npm init to install package to create a package.json, which is nothing but the entry point of any JavaScript applications, which tells more about your applications. So once you give npm init and click on enter, it will ask you for a few questions. Let it get pop up. I'll wait for it. Yeah, over here it is asking for the package name. I'm just going to give my app as the package name, and the version you can just mention it as 1.0.0. Maybe later, if we are upgrading our app based on this tutorial, we will modify the version as well. If you want to give any descriptions, you can give over here. And the entry point is index.js, which is not going to change right now. And if you want any test commands like karma test and jasmine test, you can mention the test commands over here by default, which will make sure that whenever your application is up and running, this test command is getting executed. If in case your application or the webpack is going to be built based on a specific folder in your source control, at that time you have to mention any URL over here. And click on keywords. I'm not going to take any keywords or any I'm not going to use any keywords in my application, so I'm just going to click on enter. Author, I'm just going to mention my name as an author. You can mention your name for it. And license, I'm just giving it as MIT. It's nothing but like just a small name, like it is not mandatory that you have to give a MIT. Except the app name, everything is not mandatory over here. And if you click on yes, your package.json will be created. And how to verify it? Once you open this app, and yeah, it is already there. If it is not getting loaded, just click on the refresh button. And once you open this package.json, whatever the things that we entered, right, like it is already been there. And this would become as an entry point for any Java related app which is up and running. It acts as a starting point which tells about our applications. And after updating this, the next thing that we need to install is a React module itself. So I'm going to use this command npm install and React. What this does is the React modules would be downloaded and it would be based in my node modules, which right now you can't able to see over here, but once I execute this command, it would be over here. What it does is it downloads the React module which is present in the internet and it places over here, and we can React this module in our JS file in our coding, and we can use that module to bring a lot of React kind of components in our applications. So when I say I'm using React, that means I need to have some library kind of thing, right? So this particular command installs that. And apart from that, I am also going to install another module which is nothing but React DOM. So React DOM and React both comes in hands in hand. What does React DOM does is each and every HTML element which is present is will be passed as a DOM. So those type of contents, like say for example, if you want to render a particular element, you will be using this particular this command so that it would get used and render the components, and it would show in your UI. And once this is done, the next is the most important thing, which is nothing but Webpack itself. What is Webpack module? So I'm going to install the Webpack by saying npm install Webpack. So Webpack is nothing but the tool which bundles all your components like JavaScript, CSS, and your HTML into a single folder. It's a tool, single folder. It would bundle all in one, and it would bring you in browser with the help of Babel. So this particular Webpack need to be installed. I already said you in the previous tutorial that it would be bundled as a var. If you want to bundle it as a var, you can also do that. And for that, what we are using is this particular Webpack module. And how to install this particular Webpack module is by using the command npm install Webpack. So once this module is being installed, there are a couple of other modules that also we need to install as a part of this tutorial, and they are nothing but Webpack Dev Server and Webpack Client. What is Webpack Dev Server and what is Webpack Client? So over here, you have loaded the modules Webpack, and as I said earlier, the Webpack is nothing but a tool which brings all the components in the front. But in order to bring that in front, there is some inbuilt components itself which should be present. Those are nothing but Webpack Dev Server. Inside that itself, it will act as a server engine, and Webpack CLI, which would act as a client. And these components also need to be installed so that your Webpack is available thoroughly. Say for example, when you are installing React, you also install the React DOM, right? Like that, when you are installing Webpack, you also need to install these two modules. So I'm going to mention those two modules in my next command. As of now, let's wait for this particular installation that I have executed needs to be completed. I'll wait for it, and from next command onwards, I just execute it in a single command itself. When I say single command, in a single line, so that we don't have to do that. And you also have a note that whenever I am just installing anything, right, you will see that it is automatically added in your package.json as well. So what it does, so say for example, tomorrow one of your colleague also wants to install an application. If he just imports this package.json, and if he just enters npm install alone is enough. What all the dependencies components present over here, it would automatically installed over here rather than I am executing the command each and every time, right? So that is not needed, and that is the reason like why it is getting loaded as a dependencies over here. This is telling that these are all the dependencies that is present for creating a Webpack kind of like web applications. So the next thing what I'm going to do is, as I said earlier, I'm going to install npm install Webpack hyphen server and Webpack hyphen CLI, and I am also going to execute few other things. Those are nothing but Babel, which I will explain you what is Babel and what is Babel is used for. Babel hyphen loader and space. I am also going to install Babel hyphen reset hyphen env hyphen Babel, sorry, space Babel hyphen reset hyphen react, and that is last sorry, Babel hyphen reset hyphen react is there, and HTML webpack plugin. So once I click on all the stuff, I'm just going to click on enter. So I've explained you what is webpack server and webpack CLI is used for and how it comes along with the webpack. So there is some error I'm getting. Webpack dev server latest is not in the npm registry. Let me install npm install webpack dev server alone and see what happens. Sometimes it occurs like, yeah, now it is getting installed. Yeah, so no, not found. Also install Java folder HTML error or get your. So if you take a look at the command, whichever I have executed, you can able to see over here webpack hyphen dev hyphen server should be there. I haven't used hyphen dev, and that is the reason like it is throwing some exceptions over here. Okay, once this is done, I'll just once modifying that, I'll click on enter and see what happens. It would install all the stuff. So let it get installed. In parallel, I'm going to explain what is Babel and why it is required. Babel is nothing but a module like React, and so is another node module like React, like Webpack. And what this does is it converts ES5 to ES6. And what is ES5 and ES6? Yeah. So, say for example, you have everything that is created in your React application, the webpack, war, everything is created. You need some plugins or some information to tell that, hey, I'm present over here, and like you need to download that into my browser, and it has to be seen in the screen. So, who will tell that? Babel tells that. And we also get an error like HTML webpack plugin was not found. Okay, so again same typo error. Over here I have mentioned as plugin, it should be plugin. Click on enter. So what Babel does is Babel tells, hey, you are having a webpack and I need to load it somewhere else. So these set of informations is being present and done by Babel. And in upcoming tutorial we are going to also explain like how to modify the Babel and how to set the environment and a lot of stuff. As of now, just think like Babel is one which loads your webpack into your browser. We'll go into the details in later tutorial. So once this is installed, there are a couple of files that also needs to be created. So let us we create that file, and this installation can happen parallelly. So at first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a folder I'm going to create a file with a name called webpack config.js. What is that? Webpack config.js. If you want to know what is a complete webpack config.js and what is it used for and how to modify that, I have to take a separate tutorial for that because that is huge. It's like an ocean. In this tutorial, we mostly concentrate on the React app alone. So what I will be doing is I'll be writing the code for webpack config.js and I'll be explaining you like what happens at the backend with the webpack.js which we are created right now. I'm going to walk you through the code and I'm just going to explain like what is happening. The reason is like webpack config.js a separate module, and if you want to deep dive, I need to create a complete set of a new series of tutorial which is going to take much time on it. So as of now, we need a webpack config.js for React applications, and if you are going to create it by the through webpack, so please keep that into mind, and I'm going to explain what the contents inside the webpack. At first and foremost, um, you can you have to re-import a component called port path. Sorry. So what is this does? What this does is there is a package named path and load over whenever my webpack config.js. And what does this path say? If I want to take a specific file in a folder, I'll be going directly like this. I'll be clicking in my computer. I'll be opening a specific folder. But in real time, a browser wants to take some contents and load it in your uh, browser itself. Like if it wants to display a picture, and in a real time you will be having that in a separate folder, right? All the images into one folder. So those loadings is happening in our front end uh, through our operating system. But how does it happen through browser? This particular module helps us to load it. And one more thing that we need to import is the HTML Webpack plugin. So what does that HTML Webpack plugin does? Say for example, if you are having any specific template, what do you mean by template? So this is Visual Studio Code, and you can see the Explorer over here, and it is displaying all the files that you have created and what are the files inside a folder. And when you double click on it, it opens the folder over here, file over here, and it is highlighted like this. These are all templates. So in real time, you will be having a real templates also gets loaded in your browser, and the HTML Webpack plugin helps you to achieve that goal. So we also need this particular plugin. So to import that, what I have to do is you have to uh,
Stud dot id. Make sure that this particular name, like stud dot this particular id is there, right? ID name is same like this. If you do it different, nothing would happen. It would just give you an empty tag. That's it. And you have a skill in, and that skill could be stud dot skill again. So I'm going to mention stud dot, and this you have to be in line with whatever the name that you have given, no uppercase and lowercase, whatever you have given, what is present in the object, you have to render it again. I'm just going to paste. So use copy paste. That is the best thing that a programmer should do. And saving this, I'm just going to take a look at the browser. Over here it is. It says, welcome Satish. Your ID is 123 and you have skill in JavaScript. Okay, perfect. So this is what we are trying to bring. So we rendered a JSON and we bought a list and we rendered a list, and it is showing the browser. So in real time, it is not the best way of having a rendering things inside a functional component itself. Rather than you can have a separate component where you can render the contents, and over here you can use map to iterate the student JSON. So how we are going to do that, we will see that in next tutorial. Hello everyone, welcome to the 26th tutorial in this series of Complete Guide to React.js. In this tutorial we are going to see how to use the functional components at the place of rendering as we discussed in the previous tutorial. So at first what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a new file over here, and I'm just going to mention it as student components.js, and I'm just going to hit enter, and it has created a new components for me. So over here I'm just going to give RSF, which is nothing but this is a code snippet that would generate a functional components. So RSF, and click on enter or either tab, it would create a student components for you. So let me tell what is my idea is right now. So right now, this is a student component. I'm going to segregate rendering logic with whatever that is getting displayed in the browser. So hence what I'm going to do is I'm going to write h1 tag, whatever the contents I have stored in the previous tutorial. I can just do a copy paste because I'm just a lazy guy. And over here h1 is there, right? So this entire code logic I'm just going to copy it and paste it over here. So instead of stud.name, so I'm going to pass it as a props, and I'm just going to mention it as props.name, props.id, and props.skill. So make sure that whatever that your property that you are passing, that name and everything, that should be in line. So even if it is a case, if it is capital, any letter is capital over here, it won't render anything. So we have created the functional components over here. So we are going to use the rendering logic. So instead of writing the logic over there, I'm going to do import a student component first, so that it is available in this functional components from dot slash student components. It is automatically getting populated, so make use of that so that you don't do any spell mistake. And over here in a student.json, what I am going to do it for each student, I am going to call a student component, and in the student components I'm going to pass props equal to my student parameter. It's giving me an error. Let's see like what happens. It is showing that it is not having an empty tag. So once I just give the empty tag, this goes. And so what I'm trying to achieve it is like I'm explaining it again. So over here I'm going to achieve that rendering logic is segregating from iterating logic. So over here in student list functional components, I'm iterating the JSON, and in student component, I am rendering it. So this is how your actual React.js code should be in your project and or whatever the applications you are creating. Because this student component would be reusable in somewhere else, and this rendering logic may also will be reusable somewhere else in your applications. So this is the actual way that you have to write your code. So once clicking on save, let me take a look at localhost 3000 and see like what happens. Localhost 3000, enter, and I'm just going to see welcome UID, and yeah. So one thing just want to keep you posted is you see that it is empty. The reason is I have passed the variable over here start and called as a props. So this particular name actually props, right? It has to be properly rendered. So for that, what we need to do is we need to put a close braces and open braces. And right now we are going to take a look at it. It renders and gives you the actual result. Say for example, as I said, I was keep on repeating like this name should be in line with the values that I'm going to give, right? So say for example, I do make a mistake like this. Instead of small caps, I'm just going to give props.name. Over here you see, after welcome, you don't see any name over here. Instead it is empty. The reason is you have mentioned the wrong name. So the name over here, which is nothing but in small case name, should be in line with this. So use copy paste and paste it over here. Save it. Right now you can see the name is getting displayed. So what I'm going to do is, after this I'm going to right click and click on inspect element. One thing I just want to keep you posted about it, and many of the tutorials or many of the things that you won't come across in framework is over here. It is saying each child in a list should have a unique key prop, and it is not present, right? So though it is rendered properly, over here it is throwing me an exception. That is in console it is throwing me an exceptions. This is not making your application as a showstopper, but you also have to take a look at what is this particular issue is, and you have to overcome this issue in order that your application should be proper. So what is this and how to resolve this particular issue? We will take a look at this one in next tutorial. Hello everyone, welcome to the 27th tutorial in this series of Complete Guide to React.js. At the end of the last tutorial, we have seen that there was some exception that is getting occurred on the console, and it has mentioned that a unique key prop need to be passed. Let us take a look at it, like what is the actual issue and what do React wants from you. So over here we are rendering a functional components, and that is rendering inside a map, right? So while rendering inside a map, it is rendering as an actual component itself. When I say actual component, it is nothing but the functional components. Like it is rendering as an actual component. That means for each and every object over here, which starts with the open braces and the closed braces, it is going to render me a student component, and What React is saying is, hey, you have provided me a student JSON and I am just keep on rendering the student component, but I need some value so that I can set it as a key and render it. Why I need the key is because React tells us that I don't want to create any duplication issues over here, and hence I need a key. So in order to get a key, what we need to do is we need to mention key over here, and this key attributes should be equal to some value, and this value should be unique. You can't mention something like some string like this or else some number like that, number like 1 2 3 like that, because each and every time when I am rendering the student components, the same key is getting used, so it would cause me a problem again, and hence I need to use some values for the key such a way it is unique. Let us take a look at the student JSON over here. In this, there is some attribute called as an ID. I can use that. I can use stud.id and let's see like what happens. So over here I am passing stud as a props, and over here stud.id as a key. So stud.id, make sure that it is in lines with the same value over here. So no caps, no small keys, everything like you have to take care of it each, and it's case sensitive. So I'm saving this and I'm just taking a look. It's compiling me at the back end, and let us take a look at it. What happens? So once it renders it, I'm just going to refresh. Yeah, once it renders it, you can see that there is no error over here. So one more thing that would come into your mind is I have passed key attribute over here. Is it possible for me to render that key attribute over here? Yes, you can render it, but one important thing that will happen that I want to keep you posted is if you just put key value over here, it is not going to show up anything in the console. So I'm just mentioning this key, whichever I'm that getting it rendered, and I'm passing it over here. Let's see what happens. So that key whichever I have mentioned it over here, right? This is not being present over here, and it is also giving me a console.log error saying that key is not a prop, and if you try to retrieve the key component it would give undefined. So this is one of the most important thing, like the most advantageous thing that we can see in the React. Say for example, if 10 years before in JavaScript development, if you take a look at it, any error in the console, it won't give you a proper error itself. Right now, with the help of the React, it gives you a proper error and saying that you should not use it. Thanks to ReactJS for that. And that is why like ReactJS is the most competitive front-end language that have been vastly used. So I have to remove key over here. So whatever the key that you are passing, you can pass it, but it is no use actually. So you can't render anything, you can't do anything. So it is up to React. You have to inform React, hey, you want a key, right? I'll provide the key. This is the key. And you just render me a props. So that is the only one thing. And the second thing I just want to keep you posted is this stud.id should be unique over here one to upcoming tutorial. I'll see you in next tutorial. Thank you right now. Hello everyone, welcome to the 34th tutorial in this series of Complete Guide to React.js. So in this tutorial, we are going to see forms in React.js and we are going to see how practically forms works in React.js. So just to recollect, in the last tutorial, we have seen theoretically how to set state and how to make a controllable elements is controlled by React.js. So in this, we will try to implement the same. So I am going to my app.js. So I have deleted whatever the code that I have written previously. In this, I'm going to create a new folder, going to name it as tutorial 34. And as usual, and I'm going to create a new file. Let me keep the name as forms.js. You can keep whatever the name you want. And then you have to mention RCC. What this will do is this will create a class component. So inside this, I'm going to create a constructor. And right now, let me just put some controllable elements in JavaScript, which is nothing but input type as text, type equal to text, and I'm going to close it, self-close. Save it, and I'm planning to import it over here. Forms / self-close, and before that, in order to make it work, I have to import the same. Import forms from dot slash tutorial 34 slash forms. Okay, and I'm going to click on save. Let me take a look at the browser and see what is it. So there is a input type is there, which is nothing but text. So just getting appeared in the browser. So I'm going to type anything, and this is controlled by JavaScript itself. The element whichever that is present over here, right? It is controlled by its own, but that is not the case. We need to change it in such a way that React.js controls whatever the contents inside this. If I type this, only React.js has to control this. That's what we have seen in the previous tutorial, theoretical tutorial. And how to make that is at first, for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get inside form.js where I have created this input type text. In this, I'm going to initialize a state as mentioned in the previous tutorial. So going to mention it as equal to, and inside this, I'm going to give a username colon, and at initially let it be empty, and later I will set it. So in this input type text, I have to mention the value. How I'll do it in the previous series of tutorial. If you have seen that, I would have also explained it. We need to use this dot state dot username. So whatever the values that is present over here, it would be over here. I'm going to the browser, refresh it, going to enter the values, nothing happens, right? So at this place, we actually made React.js control this particular input type text box. Whereas in previous way, right, before writing the state, it was controlled on its own. So whatever I type, it is being controlled on its own. Right now, we made to be controlled by React.js. So in order to type, whatever the values it is typed in this text box need to be stored, what we need to do, we need to write set state. So how to do that? At first, what I'm going to do is on change. So this is a default event for the text box on change or on like there is another event called onClick is also there, but it is not required. Over here, on change is required. So whatever you change it, it needs to be stored. And over here, I'm going to mention it as handle, say for example, handle text change. I'll give the name like this. And this is a function. And since it is a function, I have to mention handle text change equal to, and I'm using what is it? I'm using ES6 way of representing the function, so you can take a look and learn. So over here, each and every change is having an event, right? Over here, I'm going to mention it as a target. So many might get confused. So I have not declared any variable or anything by value called target over here, but without doing anything, I am just mentioning a target as a parameter in the handle text change. You can ask why it is. There might be some question raised in your mind. This is nothing but it's an inbuilt component or inbuilt unit that would get triggered. So in a simple way, what you can imagine is, say for example, whatever the contents you type in the text box, right? Automatically this function would get called, and what is present inside it would be passed over here as a parameter. So this is the actual definition of it. So right now over here, like I'm passing the target, and this target value I am going to save it inside the set state. So set state, and I'm going to mention the object like how I've defined it. It's my bad. Open bracket, open braces, close braces, and inside that I'm going to mention username colon target dot value. So again, don't get confused. So this is nothing but target is nothing but what are all the contents that is present inside this text box would be passed as a contents in this function. So target is the contents of this text box. So this is the inbuilt feature of the JavaScript, and ReactJS overlays uses those and sets the content into the set state. So I'm saving it, and let me take a look. Right now I'm going to type some word. Let's see what happens. Perfect. So it automatically stores the content inside the set state. So we controlled the controllable components using ReactJS setState method. So this is what I want to explain you practically in this tutorial. In the next tutorial, we will see like how to control the same drop down a button and how to prevent on submitting a button. Those contents we'll take a look. Thanks, and have a nice day ahead. Hello everyone. Welcome to the 35th tutorial in the series of Complete Guide to ReactJS. In this tutorial, we are going to see the most important topic in the ReactJS while using forms. I said most important because each and every person, including me as well, would have done this mistake when you are going to be a fresher in ReactJS and while developing a forms. That's why I have kept a separate topic for this in order to explain you guys to be aware of what cautions you need to take care when you're using submit button in forms in ReactJS. So in this topic, I'm going to explain about that. So for that, what I'll be doing is I'll be creating a text, and what I'll also be doing is while creating a text, I'll also include that as a form elements, and I'll explain you guys like what is that particular caution we need to take care of it. So at first I am going to take the same code base what we have used in the previous tutorial, and in fact you can just look the code. Like we have kept a div tag, and the input type is username alone is present. Though we have typed this, like we add a input type, right? Input type as a text, and a text box had appeared, and right now ReactJS is controlling it. Still, it is not a form elements. So in order to make it as a form elements, what we need to do? It is bit very difficult. Please understand. You have to give form over here and close the form tag over here. That's it. You have created a form element right now. So if you take a look at the browser right now, this will act as a form element. So in order to explain the caution which I have explained you guys at the start of this tutorial, I'll create one username and password input type, and then I will have a button which is nothing but a submit button. I'll explain the submit button, what happens after clicking the submit button with an event and without an event, which is passed inside the event handler of submit button. So for that, initially what I'll do is, in order to make the look and feel appearance good, I'll create a label over here, and I'm going to name it as a username label. Over here I'm going to give it as a username, and I'm also going to create a label name for password, and the input type would be password as well. And input type I'm going to give it as password. And over here on change handler, I'm going to have the name it as handle password change, and in the set state I will give the default value of the password to be empty. Same I did it for the username. I'm going to copy this entire contents and I'm going to place outside the render method, which is the best practice as I've explained in the previous tutorials in this series. And I'm also going to rename with an event rather than target value. So you can access the value by event.target.value. I missed dot, so I'm going to give target. Perfect. So again I have to create one password change element, right? So I'm copying the text, and since the functionality is one and the same, I'm going to replace that with the password. So over here also I'm going to replace that with password instead of username. So right now I have copied this and paste it in a place over here. Since it is outside the render method, I need to access it with this dot and this dot like that. So I have created form elements, and you can able to see two text box will be present, one with the username and the password. And don't get confused like why this is present already, because I have already tried it and it stores the cookie values and browser cookie values, and it shows over here. So don't get confused with that. And next part what we are going to do is, we have created the text field and the password. Right now we are going to create a button. So for that I am going to import button, or you can also give input type equal to button, anything. I'll prefer this one. and I'm going to keep the name of the button as login. And once this is being it, what is going to do that would be handled in onClick event. So make sure that it is camel case, and inside this I'm going to mention this dot handle submit change. And over here I'm also going to create an handle submit change method to handle the submit, and I'm not going to pass the event as mentioned. And instead of the set state, I'm going to put an alert message saying that this is the username and password, like that. So I'm going to make username plus this dot state dot how I'm going to access it with username, and then plus I'm going to mention the password as well. Password. In real time, you should not post password in your UI, but this is for our understanding. I'm going to do this. Basically, what will happen in real time, if you are working in an applications, at this point of a time, you have to pass this values to your service or your database, where you will verify the username and password is correct or not. So over here, we just simply alert it, since we don't have any inline service or database right now. So what it happens basically right now is, I'm going to put the username and the password, and after clicking the login button, it is giving me a alert message saying that this is the username and the password that you have entered. Let me take a look at the browser. I'm going to empty those contents which is already present. I'm going to write some values. Okay. So in the password tab, whenever I type this one, the password is also getting set. So we will see what it is. We have did some mistake. That is nothing but the value is username still, whereas it should be password, and that's why whatever we typed on the username was also adding some contents in the password tab as well. So over here, I'm going to refresh the browser and clear the cookies. I'm going to mention my username. Let me keep it as Satish, and password, and click on login. That is going to give me an alert message saying that username Satish, password whatever I have entered. So now I'm going to click on the OK button. Take a look at the browser alone. It gets refreshed. Did you take a look? Maybe one more time I'll submit it. If you take a look at it, it is refreshing it again. So this is one of the most cautious thing that we need to take care in the web development world. Whenever you are hitting a submit button, your ReactJS browser refresh. And sometimes what happens is, whatever the contents that I have entered over here, I have entered over here as a Satish, and I'm going to enter the password, click on login, it goes to the service, and it just refreshes and gives me the cookie value, right? Say for example, when you are working on an application, or else if you are not worked on any application, you are going to your banking site. When you are putting the username and password, and when you are hitting the login button, if your login credential is passed or it's okay, it would allow you to your new applications. New web page, like where you can see your account summary and other things. But say for example, if your account is not valid credential, you have not provided the valid credential password, at that time if you refresh it, everything would be over here is empty. It is okay, we have only 2 fields, but in a real big applications, you will have lot of contents over here, and when you click on login and if the browser refreshes, you will lost all the information that is present or entered over here, right? Which is a bad user experience. So in order to avoid it, what we need to do? This is the one cautious thing that I want to explain you guys in this particular tutorial. The reason is most of the people who is working as a freshers or a developer in React.js at first, they would, they would come to this particular place where they will get lost, and hence the reason I want to post a video especially on this and keep you guys updated, like what it would happen when I am clicking the submit button. So this is the default behavior of submit button. Right now, in order to avoid it, so what I will be doing is I will be passing an event. Event is nothing but a default inbuilt parameters that would be present while handling a submit button or on click or on change. So in this, I have to do event.prevent default. So by doing event.prevent default, which is also an inbuilt method, what it will happen is it will prevent your browser to get refreshed. So we have created a form elements, and inside the form elements we have the username and the password. And in case if you want, you can also include a lot of things like drop down radio button, checkbox as you wish. And once you click on the submit button, in order to not refresh or flush out the values whichever it is present already exist inside that, you need to do is event.prevent default. So after having this event.prevent default, I'm going to give the username and password. Let me take a look what is happening over here. Username, and clicking on login, it gives me username as an alert message and the password. So assume that this alert message is nothing but it is contacting the service and checking whether the username and the password is correct or not, and click on OK. You will see still your username and the password persist. It is not getting refreshed. So you should be very cautious when you're using the submit button, and hence you need to use event.prevent default in order that browser doesn't get refreshed. And as mentioned, we are now actively using the forms, and submit button is one of the form element. Username, password is one of the form elements. It should be enclosed within the form tag, and whatever the contents, it should be present over here. So that's it from this tutorial. So I just want to explain the most important or the things easily the developers or freshers would in React.js would do, and hence the reason I've created a separate tutorial over here. Thanks for watching, and please feel free to subscribe, and you have a subscribe button at the end of this video at the right hand side right hand side bottom corner. You can click on it and you can subscribe it, so that in next tutorial whatever I am going to do, it would get notified for you, and we all be in the same page over there. Thanks, and have a nice day ahead. Hello everyone, welcome to the 36th tutorial in the series of Complete Guide to React.js. In this tutorial we are going to see what is component lifecycle in React.js. Each and every component that has been created in the React.js have their own life cycles, and each and every life cycle have some stages. So we are going to see what are all those stages in the component life cycle, and is there any methods or any specific contents that can be verified whether these life cycle is being completed or not. Those are all the things that we are going to discuss in this tutorial. There are 4 stages for the components lifecycle, and they are mounting, updating, unmounting, and error. In mounting, what we are going to see is like when mounting stage occurs. When you create a component and it is inserted into a DOM, this stage is called as a mounting stage. So what do you mean by insert into a DOM? DOM is nothing but the document object model. See, whatever the web page that you are seeing, right? Website you are seeing, and you have the UI page. So it is rendered from the DOM only. DOM means document object model. Each and every components is getting displayed from the DOM. So when you are inserting a component at that time, like when you are using a component and when it is inserting the component into the DOM, this stage is called as a mounting. One such example is, so when you use a class component, you will see the constructor would be populated, right? We used to have a constructor. So at that time, it is used to initialize the state values into some values like that and all, right? It is one such example or one such time where the components is mounted into the DOM. And another example is the render method itself. Like initially, what are all the things that would render? So these are all the contents which happens at mounting stage. So there are some methods, inbuilt methods in ReactJS itself to verify the mounting stages happened or not. So which I am not going to cover in this tutorial. I will cover in the upcoming tutorials with the practical examples like how the mounting is happening like that and all. Same applies to the all the other stages which we are going to see as. So the second stage is nothing but the updating. Updating stage comes into a picture when you are re-rendering the component. So when you will re-render the component, say for example, if you are having a text box and you mention the text box value is this dot state dot some value, and you're setting a set state on doing some actions like triggering an event, and you're setting a state. At that time, your content alone would change without refreshing the browser, right? Those particular time is called updating lifecycle. So those particular time is the where you are updating the components and you're not refreshing the browser. Refreshing the browser is something different. Over here, you are just updating the component alone in the web page, right? So this is an example, or this is where the updating stage is happening. And we also have a set of methods to verify the updating stage is being completed or not, which I am going to discuss in the upcoming tutorial. Later, the third stage is unmounting. Unmounting is a phase where your component is being removed from the DOM itself. So there is a method called component did mount is present, which would verify whether a component has been removed from your DOM. So your component has been removed from the web page or the UI, whichever that is getting shown. That stage is called unmounting. And there comes the last stage, which is nothing but the error stage. Anything that is happening in your web page when rendering the React component abruptly. Say for example, you're hitting a web service and it is throwing some exceptions like the web service is not available. So these are all error stage. So at that time of the error, there is a specific stage where at the time of the error, what it happens is it would render some error related messages in your UI. Those are called the error stage. So one such example is the catch and set error, error boundary. So these are all the things that we are going to see in the upcoming tutorials, and I'm also going to explain what are all the methods, inbuilt component methods that are available in the ReactJS to verify if the stage is being completed or not. So that's it from this tutorial. I'll see you in the next tutorial, and feel free to subscribe. Thank you. Hello everyone. Welcome to the 37th tutorial in the series of Complete Guide to ReactJS. So in this tutorial, we are going to see the first stage that we have discussed in the last tutorial, which is nothing but mounting lifecycle. So before start of this tutorial, this tutorial will be more theoretical, and in the next tutorial, I will be explaining in practical like how to attain the mounting life cycles, and whatever that I am going to discuss in this tutorials, I will be explaining it practical in the next week. So if someone doesn't feels like, they doesn't want to concentrate on theory, so you can skip this video and you can just concentrate on the next video. So in mounting life cycles, like there are some methods that is available to in ReactJS which would help to know this mounting style. So one such method is called as a constructor. So in the previous tutorials, you must have seen that while creating a class components, we must have been using a constructor, right? So this constructor is the first method, or this is the method which is called immediately after a new component has been created. And constructor is the place where you can able to initialize a state and binding event handlers. So this also we have seen in our previous tutorials. Just as a recollections, over here in constructor only you have to initialize the state and binding event handlers. You can't do that outside the constructors. And one such thing that you should not do in the constructor is you should not call any service or Ajax calls inside the constructor itself. So this is one such important things that we need to take care when we are coding. And I just want to keep you posted, like these are all the drawbacks, like should not call a service inside the constructor. And one such mandatory thing that you have to do once you have constructor in your class components is you have to invoke a super method. That also we have used in our previous tutorials. And this super method is the one which would get the properties from the parent component. So whenever we are calling a super method, we would pass props inside it. Though we are not having any properties that being passed into the child class components, we would be calling the super method over there. That is because whenever you are having a constructor, it is a mandatory thing that you need to call the super over there. And this is the only place where you can also override the state values. In the previous tutorials or the set of tutorials, I would have explained that this dot set state equal to, like, those initialization would be done in the constructor. But anywhere else, if you want to set any values for that particular state that you declared or defined, I would have recommended to use set state, right? But if you want to change the value of state within the constructor, you can go ahead and do it, because that can override the state value and it would change the values, rather than you don't have to use set state if you are doing it inside the constructor. So don't worry about it. All these things that I am going to brief right now, I will also be explaining in practical in the next sessions. But over here, I am just keeping you posted so that you can aware of and you can think of before getting into the next tutorial. And the next method, which is called immediately after the constructor, is get derived state from props. So this is the way I am discussing is the ranking of the mounting lifecycle methods itself. There are 4 mounting lifecycle methods are there. We have one is constructor, this one is the second, and third and fourth we are going to look into it. But as the order I am discussing, the ranking in the sense which thing would be immediately called. At first, if both constructor and the get derived states from props is there, first thing that would be called is the constructor, then the get derived state would be called, then the next one, like that it would be. So over here, the second ranking is nothing but the get derived state from props. This is a static method, that is an inbuilt method that is present in the ReactJS. And when the state component is dependent on the props, at that time you can use this particular method. Say for example, if you have a properties that being passed from your parent component, and this properties you are using it in the state, you are going to initialize it, or you are going to declare a state based on the props value. At that time, you have to use this get derived from state props. So this particular method, since it is a static, it will not have access to this object. So inside this object, you can't mention this dot state dot some variable equal to some value. That you can't able to do it inside this particular method. This is one of the disadvantage over here. Now also one more thing that you shouldn't do inside this particular method is you should not use any Ajax calls, or you not fetch any services or talk to the DOM. So those kind of things should be avoided inside this particular method. So and the next method is nothing but the render method. This is one such mounting lifecycle methods. This is one method, and this is in the third rank. So after constructor get derived state from props, this is the next method that will be called third ranking when mounting lifecycle, in mounting lifecycle. And this render method is the only required method. So there might be a scenario where you will have a constructor, but there you will be having a class component, but constructor won't be present. So those kind of scenarios also we have seen, but we have never seen any scenario without render method. If we are having a class component, it is mandatory that particular component will have a render method. And this will read state and props and returns JSX, like whatever the contents that has been set previously before this render, that would be used inside this JSX. This is nothing but a syntactical sugar of the HTML element, right? The HTML element is nothing but the JSX element. It's a syntactical sugar. So those particular element would be defined inside this render method, and it would use all the props and the state which has been declared before this render method. That's what it means. And inside the render method, you should not call any Ajax, should not change any state, and any DOM changes like document object model, document.getElementID, and you can't able to modify it. So these are all the things that you should not do inside the render method. And the render method, once the render method is completed, all the components is done, and the next thing what it is rendered, it is the children components lifecycle method would begin. It would try to begin, means like if there is a parent constructor, the parent constructor is the one is having a render method, and once it is getting completed, it will try to fetch its children's components, and children's component will have its own lifecycle, like as we discussed, constructor and get derived from state, like that it would go. And the last mounting lifecycle method that we have is component did mount. So the component did mount method looks like this. This is the syntax of the component did mount, and it is called only once, and it is called only after calling all the child elements. Say for example, if you have a parent component called as A and a child component called as B, when you are rendering, when you are having both getting rendered in the UI or a web page, at first all the components inside the A would be rendered, and then second their child components would get rendered, and at last the component did mount function, whatever the contents present in the component did mount of the parent component A would get shown in the UI. This is what it means. And this is the exact place where you need to have a DOM interactions like document object model and Ajax calls or service calls should be happening only at this place. I mean, this place is the better place where you can able to call the Ajax or service or DOM interaction. Those kind of things would be happening only in the component did mount stage. And all the mounting lifecycle, whichever I have discussed right now, nothing is mandatory except a render method. It is up to your point to use it. And the using of this, what is the advantages? Like as I discussed, like if in a real scenario, like you might come across like certain point, like where you want to find where the error is actually occurring in your application. So at that point of a time, you can have these methods, and thereby you can debug, or you can able to find the easy bug in your code. So hence this mounting lifecycle methods would be interesting and would be useful at that point of a time for you. And that's it from this tutorial. In the next tutorial, practically I'm going to explain how to attain all these 4 methods that I have discussed in this tutorial. And practically I'm going to explain like what is the difference, what is the use of it, like that. So that's it from this tutorial. Thank you and have a nice day, and please feel free to subscribe. Thank you. Hello everyone. Welcome to the 38th tutorial in the series of Complete Guide to React.js. In this tutorial, we are going to examine the mounting stage in component lifecycle. And we are also going to see what are all the methods that we have at the time of mounting stage, which is inbuilt in React.js. And we are also going to see the order or ranking of those methods as well. So let me go into the Visio code, and in Visio code I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to name the new folder as component lifecycle. And inside this folder I'm going to create a new file and going to name the file as parent component. And I'm going to use a code snippet called RCC to create a class components. And inside this class component, I'm going to mention my name, and I'm going to save it. And in app.js, what I'm going to do is I'm going to import the parent component, whichever I have created a moment before. So once saving it, I'm going